forgot a part of it. Just have to wait so that we're live streaming.
Let's check on this.
Yeah. Yeah, we're live. Okay. Just in case anybody asks questions by YouTube. He's got something. Well, I'm glad.
Clarification.
That's a good thing.
Okay, I have something for Julie and Peg,
Aw.
because of all the hard work they've done on this budget, and I certainly appreciate it. I'm sure everyone else in the room does, and I know you guys get a lot of guff from people because of things you can't control, difficult circumstances this year and all. So I'd just like to
Thank you. That's very sweet.
write a little one.
Isn't that nice?
Thank you, Val. That's really, really sweet.
And you picked
Appreciate
my
that.
favorite flower, amaryllis.
And my favorite colors.
Well, I did that special.
You did a good job, I have to say, I'm impressed.
Beautiful.
Run around looking for flowers, but there's not too many of them.
I gotta be honest, I've been married for 30 years and he still doesn't know what my favorite flower is.
It
So you're doing good.
happens.
Like the lottery.
I can smell it through the mask too. It's
That was
wonderful.
very kind.
Thanks, Val.
It is very kind,
So
thank
now we
you.
can tear apart all your hard.
Now you can
No
tell part of all our
problem.
hard work. I thought we would start off the evening. I know I went over some things with you on Tuesday, but we have Deputy Director Derek Booker once again here. He's back to talk about his scenarios that he came up with for funding his department as you requested. Over at the left turn.
Thanks for having me back. Appreciate it. So after our meeting, I guess it was a couple weeks ago now, Julie asked me to run some numbers since I discussed nighttime pay with you guys at the first meeting. So we crunched some numbers, sort of three different ways on what I thought might be best, at least currently, in our setting to increase our night pay and hopefully staff the ambulances a little better during the course of a 12-hour night shift. So I guess where I would want to start with you guys is, I'm assuming they have the EMS budget in front of them somewhere.
They do. Actually, in one of the pages in the packets that was on your chair, yellow were the changes that we've made recently, and there's a 300 EMS budget in there. Just from the one proposal to up to $13 for, that reflects that number.
So basically, in our budget, this line we're discussing is the ambulance attendants standby pay. So currently, just so you have some background information, currently our attendants outside of our paramedics. So basically what that means is there's a crew of 4 people on at night. There's or slots for 4 people. We don't always fill them. That's what I'm hoping to kind of start to solve with maybe a pay increase. So the paramedic makes $19.25 an hour around the clock. So when they're here from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., they're making their hourly wage. The attendants below them, usually staff at the EMT, advanced EMT, or driver, which is an unlicensed ambulance driver. If there's a CPR car, it basically just drives the ambulance. They make a stipend of $7 an hour. My proposal is that we increase that to $13. So basically, they would get what we call standby pay between the hours of 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. An increase from $7 to $13 an hour. So the reasons for that is basically currently our drivers make $13 an hour, our EMTs make $14.09 an hour, and our advanced EMTs make $16.12. So my goal is to kind of cut the gap, between when they work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and when they work from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Cut the gap between what they make hourly, so that they can kind of make a little more money, and that probably will offer us the opportunity to staff the truck more often. With the addition of the crew rooms, the building update, I'm sure Julie can give you the exact details on that. I don't have them. I know it's in progress. Richard, the director, has worked very hard on that. He'll be back next week or so, and I think that will move forward. So I think a combination of the increase in pay and having the place to sleep will help us staff the ambulances more effectively around the clock, which ultimately gives us a chance to take more transfers, do more calls, which affects revenue. Also, I should be able to cut back on overtime from a standpoint of I have the same people covering the same shifts, every week. There's, like I said before, and I will say it again, we've got a very dedicated group of men and women that work for that $7 an hour stipend when they could go elsewhere and make their hourly wage, somewhere else. So just so you have some numbers, essentially the increase we will be looking at, you have it, I think, in front of you, is a $78,000 or $78,624 increase. So it ends up being a 21% increase, which I know is kind of large, from the pre-existing $91,728 to a line number of $173,552.
It's under part-time employees.
Yep.
So just so if you guys wanted to follow in your books.
Yep, so it's under part-time employees, and then it's a subsection of attendant, standby, Waldeboro. So
Yeah, Ellis, or-
No, he's referencing an internal document that we use to, that you can write it on the yellow sheets if you like, because those are updated numbers under the part-time section. The part-time section has pay rates and hours that you don't see that he works from. So he knows how many hours he needs a paramedic, an advanced EMT, a basic EMT, the attendance, that sort of thing. So you don't see the details of the work that they're doing at their desks.
So the note that I have here in front of me, that number is based on 3 people, non-medic level people at night, 7 days a week, 365, to the tune of 13,104 hours. So we require that. That's the coverage that we have to sort of fill that we don't always fill. So essentially, it's hard to run the numbers exactly, but more often than not, I'm running 1 crew and a half or so at night. I'm not often running a full crew. Between myself and Director Lash and Mike Poland, the former deputy director and full-time paramedic, we cover a lot of those second calls or third calls for service, just by virtue of the fact that we live in town and we have pagers on, and we come out and cover those calls. So my goal would be to cut back a little bit on that, which ultimately would cut back on overtime. I work on a salary, so I don't make overtime, but Mike certainly makes overtime when he comes out, and so ultimately, I think staffing those trucks at the increased dollar amount would help us. And I'm positive I could hire some people. You put the word team there. I network a lot doing what I do, and so I talk to people from other services that have said, hey, we'd love to come work in Waldeboro, and they often do 24-hour shifts or longer, which is kind of par for the course in EMS, and they don't come here and do them because they don't want to work for $7 an hour. So I think when you start talking about $13 an hour, when they make 14 during the day and they only go down $1 at night, they'd be willing to stay through for that whole 24-hour period. So I also ran the numbers. Adden had suggested maybe a differential. From what correct me if I'm wrong, Adden, I think what you were suggesting was on top of the stipend. When they went on a call, they would make an additional dollar amount. So what I did is I ran those numbers on a $2 an hour additional shift differential during the course of the night. So if they go on a call, they make their stipend, which is $7 an hour, plus their hourly, which is 13, 14, or 16, plus an additional $2 an hour is how I ran it. So essentially, I noted here, and it's very accurate, it's hard to determine how many calls we're going to do. It's gross, it's almost impossible. What I can safely say, looking at the numbers in our run reporting system, which is where I find all of those numbers, is that we average a call per night. So what I did was I ran the numbers on 2 EMTs, running a call in that differential setting first, so $2 an hour. So essentially, if we sent a basic EMT crew, which would consist of 2 EMTs, say for instance, to a call on Mill Street, if they transport that patient to Miles, they get a minimum of 2 hours. Our call out for transported patients is 2 hours minimum. So I ran the numbers on 2 EMTs on 1 truck with the stipend, the hourly wage, and the night shift call differential of $2 an hour. And the increase would be $84,578. So essentially, if we ran that $2 an hour shift differential, obviously if we ran it on 1, it would be a little less, but if we ran a reasonable $2 an hour differential, the increase would actually be higher than our stipend increase in that budget. So, and lastly, something to consider, there's a lot of talk amongst the masses of full pay, which basically means they would make the hourly pay across the board. It wouldn't matter if they were out on a call or if they were sleeping here at the station, they would get paid their hourly wage. So again, $13 for a driver, $14.09 for an EMT, $16.12 for a advanced EMT, and $19.25 for a paramedic. So what I did, again, it's hard to determine how often we'll fill every shift, every slot on the shift. So what I did was I ran it on an average of $15 hourly for 3 people, and for that allotted number of hours, 13,104. And so just at the very basic math, that's $104,000 increase in that budget line to a total of $196,560. So that would be full pay right across the board if it came from that particular line. So I wanted to throw those options out to you guys for consideration. From my desk, I certainly would urge you to consider just increasing the stipend at this point in time to that $13 an hour. I think that will certainly put personnel in my seats, be able to more effectively staff over the course of the night shift and cover more calls. It's hard to again determine the exact number of times we turn a transfer down, which ultimately is a potential loss of revenue due to lack of staffing, due to that lack of pay, honestly. So it's hard to determine that, but I can safely say to you folks again, we on average are turning down probably 8 to 10 transfers per month over the course of 4 weeks.
So what are those transfers potentially generate revenue?
Yep, so I'd have to pull you the base rates from the office, that's easy enough. But if you're talking about a PIF run, which requires a paramedic certified in PIF level care, which all of our paramedics are, if you're talking, base rate plus loaded mile to main med, you're talking over $1,000. So
you could potentially be losing $8,000 a month.
Potentially, yep. They're not all PIFs.
Yeah.
There's
So
a lot
it
of
could
base,
almost pay for itself by doing.
there's a
by just
lot of
taking those extra costs.
there's a lot of basic level transfers and that sort of thing that are hard to kind of do the math on. But we cover a lot of transfers again with an extra crew at home. Sometimes, for instance, I'm not even getting paid. I just cut pagers on. I'll send the truck to main med, and I'll cover from home for additional calls as needed, just so we're putting the truck on the road. But sometimes, we don't do that for safety reasons, for hours worked, that sort of thing. So I think between our ability to increase potential revenue, potentially hire some people, just by virtue of paying more at night. That should attract some people that are not working, as much as they may even want to. I certainly am with these people 40+ hours a week. And I talk to them on a regular basis, and a lot of individuals who are dedicated to this town kind of got their start here. We're starting to lose them, not lose them totally, but lose them for potential hours they would be willing to cover had an increase in their pay at night. So.
I'm sorry.
So if I'm understanding you right, there's 3 options. Or including the one we have in the budget now.
Absolutely, correct.
But the-
No, that's one of them. What you have on this, well,
Sorry,
four,
no, not the
sorry,
selected budget,
original,
the
right,
budget.
sorry,
That's
you're
what
right.
I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Sorry.
the existing.
So if you go to option 1, we're talking an additional $78,624.
Correct.
If we go to option 2, we're talking an additional $84,578. And if we go to option 3, we're talking for $100,000.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So the one thing you haven't adjusted is the amount of money you'd be able to reduce expenses because you reduced overtime.
Yes.
You got $27,000 in overtime. The differential between options 1 and 3, not the one in the book already, is about $20,000.
Yes.
Give or take.
Yeah.
So if we were to reduce overtime by say 6 or 7,
Yes.
then your actual differential is really more like 14 or 15. And with the increase in revenue that you obtain by running at night and doing transfers at night, you would more than make that.
Certainly has that potential.
Yes.
And I will point out on Bob's point, we are dealing with a system of insurances, Medicare, those types of things that, we bill a hefty amount for transfers or the appropriate amount. And we don't always get that return, as you guys obviously know. But again, just the ability to put truck on the road increases our chances of being that other.
So the $13 standby pay option, how much?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. I think we'd have to give it a go. And the reason why I say that is because we don't always fill those shifts now. And that's where the overtime comes into play from a standpoint of you're covering it with, the off-duty people that may be hovering around that 40 hour mark on the week. Does that make sense? So if they come in and cover, for instance, I have an individual who lives in town, who's a driver, he's very active on our service. He may cover 32 hours a week. But if he's here, at night and he covers a couple of calls, that puts him right at that 34, 36 hour mark. If he comes in on his nights off, he's getting overtime to run calls. So basically, it's a good question, but I don't have the exact number.
So you can't say the standby pay, how much that's overtime, but the pay which regular pay instead of
We would limit, we'd have a limit. Yeah. But I suspect by virtue, so back to the first option, the increase in stipend, I suspect I will have much less trouble staffing those 3 people on top of that paramedic. And just by virtue of doing that, there will be some different bases in here from night to night, and they stay away from that overtime.
So just to be clear, if you want to opt for 3, over $100,000 option, and hire somebody full time, you virtually eliminate or come close to it.
So, no, because they're gonna have to, there's gonna be overtime.
And I
Right,
want
you can't
No, no.
hire somebody full-time. They're only gonna have 40 hours. And then when you add in the salary and benefits, it's better. And I would just recommend we leave overtime from $7,000. You might want to be tempted to cut it. I would leave it to see how we do this first year and know that that's there next.
And I think the increase in stipend were not help much. We're saying if it doesn't work for whatever reason, we just say, oh, the revenue didn't come up, we didn't cover more than we thought we had. Then we can use it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's the revenue sacrifice. If we're just throwing money away, we don't have enough people to be able to make fun. We're losing money. We're not gaining. I'd rather take the risk, see how it works, and go with $100,000 option. That's my personal. Guess from what you're telling me, it's highly likely that we're going to be better off making those runs than we are now and not making them.
I would agree.
I mean, that's where the gravy is.
Yes and no, depending on how much, again, we bill a lot and returns are all based on insurance companies and that sort of thing. So,
But your collections are much improved.
working on it. Yes.
So, in line with that, I'm not clear, do you think by having the salary as opposed to standby, you get more coverage, so you could do more runs, or the same number of runs with either option?
So I'm suspecting that with either option, we will increase our staff. So with that being said, I think it probably behooves us to go with this stipend increase just to see how we do on revenue. Because we're gonna have the same number of staff regardless. Does that make sense? So I have 3 spots to fill. We have a paramedic on duty 24 hours a day. So for the purposes of this meeting, it's probably best to eliminate that person from your head, just so you can think about the 3 people that are getting paid that standby. So, and something to note, I'm a paramedic, for instance, and I'm at home and I'm covering and I'm getting paid that standby pay. I don't get paid like a paramedic just because I have a paramedic license. Paramedic on duty is the only person who gets that paramedic pay. So the 3 people underneath that paramedic are the ones getting that standby. Does that make sense? So to answer your question, Rob, I don't have any more spots based on how much I pay. I have 3 spots to fill regardless. I think with the stipend increase, the $13 an hour, I'll be able to fill those spots much better. And it saves us some money as far as the initial shock of $100,000 versus 70.
It gives you a year to see how it goes, and you're happy to revisit it next year, and we're already gone up.
You know, it's certainly a positive thing if revenues do increase, and staffing increases, and if it doesn't, I think we end up back here and just have discussion about it. Yes.
What about the overtime?
Within 60 days, I read, first round comes within 60 days.
Regardless, it really won't come out of our pockets.
It's, no,
But you- but
2
yeah, so
years.
this could be a trial without federal money.
Yeah, I really think now's the time. You know, my discussions with you and Peg and Richard have all pretty much come down to that. You know, we should take some good with the bad. This whole COVID thing, and some money. We should really go. I think that's certainly
Right.
Well, that's another thing too to consider. You know, if it doesn't go well for whatever reason, then we're back here drawing board. So I
this
think-
is the direction we were headed in anyway. I don't think people should think that this has been an ongoing issue in
Yes.
the last 3 years. Richard has said, we have a staff issue, we've got to address it, and now we are.
So my vow would certainly be once we can say we do it, and I can say to people, hey, we're paying $13 an hour tonight now. Again, EMS is a small community, everybody kind of talks. This is a good place to work. we've got good people, we've got a good community, we've got a good call volume with a lot of opportunity for good experience. People want to come work here, but we got to help them. We got to help them out something. So I think this certainly is a good option and will help the staff.
Oh, yeah, just a reminder, I can remember a while back when EMS was levied, we contributed for a budget, and that stopped, and we lost the transfer. So getting that back, is gonna help us get it back. I think we gotta try.
I certainly believe it will help us at least work towards that goal. To echo Julie, this has been a problem in our particular setting for quite some time. I think we should work towards that full pay, just because that's where the business is going. But I understand increasing, little by little, just to see how it feels and how it goes. And that way we have a better idea of what we do moving forward. And if we go to $13 an hour, the jump to 14 and 16 hurts a lot less. It's doing well in a couple of years. So.
I'm just curious, do for-profit ambulance service, do they have a different pay structure, or do they pay per hour?
I will tell you that most places around us and even statewide, they essentially pay around the clock. A person that's makes $15 an hour, makes $15 an hour from the minute they walk in that door to the minute they walk out. A lot of places offer sort of like Adam said, a differential for nights, weekends, that type of thing, but it's usually in addition to their pre-existing hourly wage. So again, we certainly, I think it would be wise of us to head that direction, but this is a step in that direction that I think is a good one.
Yeah, I'm just curious, what is different about the for-profit business model and how all the we're basically doing the same thing, right?
We're doing the same job, that's for sure. So I think it's all about the funding and where the funding comes from. They're a profit, right? They're a for-profit agency. I don't have a lot of experience with it, to be honest with you. I work for CLC in Minnesota, which is a quasi-municipal not-for-profit, and I work here. And so my experience with for-profit ambulance service is just hearsay.
Yeah, it seems like if it is a viable business, then the town should be able to run it. Do the same thing, basically, and maybe generate revenue. I think it's a little different structure, but if we're doing the same job, you're making money at it. But
But if we're trying to work down, like Derek said, if we're losing calls, we're losing money.
yeah,
They're
well,
taking the calls.
they're in the same boat. They don't have
Well,
staff.
if they've got staff, I'm sure they probably pay more.
So I will tell you that we'll take Northeast for example. They're a big player out of Penn Bay. I will tell you that they have a contractual agreement with Penn Bay, so we essentially we end up taking a lot of the calls from Penn Bay when they're busy. It's all lack of staffing, so they're busy. We end up taking the third or fourth transfer. They've already sent 2 trucks to me.
Right.
And so, but what happens to us is we have to turn transfers down out of our local hospital in Minnesota because of our staff. And again, I can't give you the exact numbers, but I can tell you safely, 8 to 10 transfers a month over the course of that 4 weeks we're saying now. And I will tell you that this is a busy 911 service. We cover a lot of area for emergency service, which does in theory generate revenue as well. But we are turning down work because we can't stop trucking.
I think that we do that.
I know you guys have given thought to the idea of doing this as an enterprise instead of a town department. And I still think it's worth looking at that down the road. Keep thinking about it. this is a good interim step, and it ought to be pretty easy to track over the next 6 months how our call volume increases
Absolutely.
and know whether or not we make those calls because without better staffing. And that'll give us,
That's a very simple number. You know, that's there's a report generated in your system for every single call we know. If we drive to the end of the driveway and they say, hey, we're all set, you can go back, that gets generated in the system and cancel one. So everything goes in the system.
Just a question. Contract. Personal experience, if someone needs to be transferred from Bay to Mayhew, does it matter whether, do they have a choice?
So
If they're a resident of Waldeboro, don't they get to pick?
I will tell you, ultimately, the answer to that question is yes. I think a lot of patients, from my experience, I've been told, you're being transferred in Paul Northeast, and then that whole step just gets skipped. Patients, of course, have a right to request needs, 100%. If you're a Waldeboro resident, or if you live in South Portland, you're up at Rockland at the Foster Festival, when you hurt your leg, you want Waldeboro to come to the main med, you can legally request that transfer.
Whether they get that option or not, maybe a different story.
Exactly. Sometimes sometimes things are kind of course under duress. A lot of those situations are emergent, or at least quasi-emergent, because they are being transferred to a higher level facility. Those patients, quite frankly, a lot of times just say, "Yeah, give me down." There's not a lot of thought into who takes them. Us in this room, we're all going to say, "Please call one." But that's not the case for everybody. So they may, in my experience, they may just not be given that option. Next thing you know, their ambulance going south. Like, oh, it's northeast. They don't even really know the difference at the time. So, but I will tell you, over at Miles, how it essentially works is if we transport a patient in, and that patient needs to be transferred later on, they will call us. It doesn't really matter where they're from. If we go mutual aid to Damascata, and we transport that patient in, they're supposed to call us and say, hey, we got this patient in, can you take them to the med? That's kind of an unwritten agreement amongst the agency leadership between CLC and us, and that, if we bring a patient in, they'll kind of give us the person who's on the transfer. And sometimes, back to my point, we are saying, no, we can't come back and take that patient, even though we just dropped them off, because I don't have staff to safely cover my town if I do it.
So out of curiosity, citizen of Waldeboro was transferred from Bay to Mayhew. Are they paying more by going by Northeast or the insurance company?
So it all depends on rates, basically. I'm not sure exactly what Northeast bills per loaded mile. Most of the time, there's what we call like a Medicare allowable. That sort of dictates what we charge for a loaded mile. And for that reason, prices are fairly close. They shouldn't be charged in the rest of more based on where they're from. What they don't have is the transported by Northeast or another agency to make that their citizen of Waldeboro. It's the opportunity through the town to reach out for hardship monies, that sort of thing. They don't have that through the town. They can send a hardship request to Northeast, but they don't have the Philbrook Fund and those types of resources because they don't live in Northeast coverage.
Yes, if you want to make a motion, you're more than welcome. My motion defines the amount of $848,605 EMS service to $938 up. Reflect the increase in stipend. Do we hear a second? Thank you. Do we want a second? Hearing none, all those in favor? Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what was the exact number?
9:38.
Ah, 9:30. Yep. Okay, this number 938, $812 reflects change in standby pay $730. More discussion. All those in favor?
Thank you very much.
You guys, appreciate your time. Appreciate the work you put into it. Appreciate it.
If you'd like, we can move on to the fire discussion. Again, that was, I went over it basically on Tuesday, for 3 years, they received an increase. It's a little bit over, it's a little bit under $11,000, and that would give them $2 an hour. If they have not had it. I just give them a big attaboy during the height of the pandemic. We drove by on Tuesday. They were out there looking to and you can help with the food bank. And just wonderful giving rides for COVID vaccines. They really do above and beyond. They're doing deliveries. They're still doing some deliveries for food for people who are still not able to get out of their home because of medical conditions. So
That number is 24.
311.
Something like this, motion on that. So I'll move 184,311, which is an increase from 173 from 179. But the increase in hourly is $14 to $16. 14.17. 16, probably both. 184,311. Okay, would be the bottom line. Okay. Yeah. Is there a second? Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Okay, but the $4,011. Motion. Okay. Any discussion? Just curious, how does this?
If you're probably $1 change would have been right.
What was the question?
If the
If this was a
COLA increase over 3 years. Would have been 9%.
COLA is 2 to 2.5 or more each year.
So it's comparable.
I just think it's
It's a little richer.
yeah, it's a little bit richer, but it's they haven't had an increase in like over 3 years.
Yeah.
So
Any other questions?
And I should just say that they are happy with anything they get. They did not ask. This as it was money that we received because of
Yeah.
COVID money.
Ready to vote? All those in favor?
And next is the police, and this is restoring the one position that we have not funded. So it's restoring it, one position, and also making change since we have been notified that our SRO is probably not higher this year, and making sure that we have insurance, costs for insurance, because most likely that insurance status.
So the new number would be 909,071.
Yes, and I should have pointed out the yellow worksheets, if you look at them, they say budget, initial, manager, committee. That the committee line is the good number. So if you compare it to the 2022 manager and the 2022 committee, that's the new number. Should have explained that earlier. I did today. Put them yellow so you can put them into your workbook.
So what is the total?
75. But that also doesn't account for a reduction. Is that part of that? Or
Yeah.
it was part of the overtime.
Well, no, not the overtime. The overtime technically goes up, but the part-time
Part-time.
employees.
All right.
So it does reflect, it's the difference, 33,500. So 18,500 difference in part-time employees.
So that change.
Sure, I'll move 909,071 for police, which is an increase from 833,50 to reflect the reinstatement. Is there a second? Second.
Can I just say, not an additional officer? We are just going back to full staff. There's no additional.
Thank you.
I just don't want people to get the impression that. No problem.
All in favor?
Yeah, black word, figured $909,071. My one comment here is starting going over revenue yet. This would be covered by the.
The American Rescue, that's very good.
Okay, but still haven't got the rest of it all.
That's fine. I wouldn't let you do this unless I told you.
Good. So that, big numbers.
They're huge numbers, and that was part of my frustration the other night, is, we talked about $2,000 for 45 minutes, and then, we kind of glanced over this, so that's a lesson for next year. We shouldn't spend 45 minutes on $2,000, we should talk about the big numbers, so I get you, if you want to go on the revenue and come back to this, you can. Because this and public works are the next. Up to you guys.
I'm fine with going on, but just, I don't know how much. I know, I don't have all.
We've got the best we're gonna get. Where the budget has to be printed.
Equally anticipated. Anyone else? All those in favor?
Lincoln, Marlboro, EMS,
All in favor?
Public Works, if you'll recall, we had a conversation with John Daigle about the
385 Marlboro Road, 385
the
Marlboro Road,
extra
Burn Drive, Log Cabin
4
Drive, for
slots
58-year-old female,
so that
living on some food.
they could have rest during overtime situations or during overnight storms.
But she still feels like
It's the other side.
there.
Thank
but
you.
The minus. So I think what we discussed the other night, of course, we ran it through John again, just to be on the safe side, is that, and I didn't realize at the time, until I talked to an employee, that the same applies to the the transfer stations, they can't take it. So that really is something that will help, I think, both departments tremendously, is will afford us the ability to let people go on a vacation so that we're not taking, 4 to 6 weeks each person during the summer when you only have 4 to 6 weeks at times to get things done. So I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit on the time frame, but I think it'll make us more productive and definitely make us compliant. So the difference in that is $14,800.
So your number would be 892, right? Sorry, 892, 291.
Correct.
I'll make a motion for that. Is there a second? Second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
$892,291. That's a good motion. Discussion. I think this is a fabulous investment. If you have a question about the transfer station, or if it's how they will do it,
Well,
where's in the winter time?
Well, they don't,
Why can't they take it?
Because Public Works,
yeah, they were relieved by the public, works, and they're covered by the same contract. With different. And these are those little idiosyncrasies that we're just getting into that we will address by either reopening up the contract or side agreement, but these are the things that it's not written in the agreement that they can't take vacation. But it's just one of those effects that, and I talked to John about it, because just how it's always been. So there's been a lot of, it's been my month and a half, 2 months of, I've tried to do one department. I think I tried, and this is my 4th year, so this is the 4th department I'm on, so we're just getting around to it. Changes, the change is good. I'm saying that to everybody, change sometimes be a good thing, but these are good changes we're making, and I just have to break John of, he's waiting for that other shoe to fall, still, and but we're getting there, This, after he mulled it over, this made a lot of sense, and the idea of being able then to get things done during the summer months with a full crew is phenomenal, and aside from the fact that since I've been here, he hasn't had a full crew due to medical, but now essentially have a full crew for 4 weeks. And
I don't want to fall on this issue, but it's a question. If they don't burn a certain amount of vacation a year, now pay them for that.
No, they have 2 years, that you can accrue vacation for 2 years. And then it could max out if you don't use it. But vacation time would be compensable when someone leaves. So if they retired, or if they, give their notice, then you would end up paying out unearned vacation time.
Okay, I guess my question is a potential for someone to lose their vacation because of they can't schedule.
I'll tell you, this year with COVID, we let people carry their vacation. You won't be paid for it after you accrued it. Happens to me, but we have allowed that. So like we're actually put that up. Because people just haven't been able to go. But yeah, I don't think we had one employee recently come to us and say they were about to use that.
So they're not losing
No,
vacation.
not during this particular time that we're all, we don't want anyone to be punished for that because they can't go on vacation at this very moment.
So even before COVID.
Before COVID, the accrual would stop at the 2 years if they didn't use it. And what I would do is let someone know when they were getting close, because I could see it. I could see the accrual maxing out. So we would just encourage people to take vacation. The union contract, though, has a permissible payout. You could request vacation to be paid out, but non-union employees, it's just like I already described. So you have to have a couple of weeks on the books to, and be in the union to request a vacation to be paid out.
And we did put in the last contract that you had to request that for the budget, so that what we had to put in the budget to pay out.
Yeah, isn't our policy?
Personnel
They are-
policy.
They are required to take vacation. And it's beyond their control. They are giving some slack.
Yeah,
That's how.
from whoever their manager is.
But we did put that in the contract that they had to let us know prior. So that we knew what to put.
Any other comments? All those in favor?
Next is the community service agency. And this was really reflects the $2,000 for Lincoln County TV. And it also reflects the increase of the public library.
I think they voted on that already. I think the vote was complete on
Oh, the vote is complete on this.
No. We voted on the library portion of it. But we didn't do that.
We didn't do snow crawlers or all those things.
I don't know. Oh, I think we voted on the line increase line item.
That's what It can't hurt to revote it.
I have a vote on 87,354 in the book, but
Yeah, I guess we did. We had it written down.
on the white page that I had on your chairs with all the yellow,
Yeah.
the highlighted ones were the ones I was like, just look at this again. You did vote on them, so you can see under the actions column. But there was just a few, like we've been discussing. Public Works, you hadn't voted on at all out of that group.
We voted on community service. We haven't, as far as I'm aware, on social services. Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did.
50/10/702. 4802. Yep, yep. Thank you. I don't think you had a pencil. I think you did. So what did you have? You gonna go there? What did you have?
We did. Did you bring your pencil case this time? Okay. Do we want to go through capital next, or do we want to go through revenue?
Other financing.
What is the assessment?
The assessment we voted on the other night, remember that was that $1,000? That was already done, just so that you have it in your book. And you'll know it was changed. Oh, the other financing. Yeah, well then.
I think you need to do capital and transfer station before you can do other, because that other represents those two other funds.
We did do.
Yep.
We just have to do capital on that.
And the highway block grant, which is the same number either in and out.
Capital reserve under the green one, I believe is your first green one after your spending. I believe EMS went over their equipment reserve. This is the $12,000 they have historically been saving for the stretchers and the cardiac monitors. And if you'll see, this is the granddaddy of them all, updated. Hopefully Val will like it. I spent a day making Val happy. It's very tough to keep Val. That's why I got the flowers. I'm sure she did. That woman knows, that woman's a smart woman. right there. But if you will go to the handy dandy new sheet that I've edited to fit on here, and I'm just going to let you know, I only went out to 2043, but then it was getting crazy to figure out the cost of the fire truck.
That's your retirement date?
Actually, it's 2038 is my scheduled retirement date. So we'll see. Well, I don't know. We're definitely interesting, but anything that is highlighted in either the green or the pink, and I'll tell you, the pink is the first round of financing, and if it's shaded, it's financing, which means we are going to have to put out financing for it. If it's not, that's built in to the budget. So if you'll notice, EMS equipment, that $12,000 that's in the budget is for cardiac monitors and stretchers. And that just goes on because at some point, that's your savings to replace those units. And then what the shaded parts are the costs of the ambulance. So that's
On the shaded part, that will be debt service.
that will be debt service.
How does that relate to our current
It will be in addition to
expiration of various?
it will be ongoing. So if you turn over the page at the very bottom, you will see finance debt service total by year and capital reserve. Capital reserve, you will raise it in the budget. Well, we're trying, but it explodes at some point because in 2030, I can't predict the cost of those. And I updated the cost with, I met with Derek to update the cost of the ambulance, and met with the chief to update the cost from the police truck, which apparently everybody's going, the trade-in value on a police truck is better than a police car or a police SUV, which is good that you know that. And again, here's what we've done in public works. I took what we said when we were talking about debt was that it's over, when you're getting into $100,000, $120,000 vehicle, you want to pay for them beforehand or after. So there's some we're saving for. So the two little trucks, if you go with public works, the F550 and the F350, we're saving for in capital reserves. And that's just going to continue. We're always saving. That's just going to be built in. So you're not going to see, we want that level. We want to predict what we're going to have. Now, obviously, last year and this year are not great years because of what we're facing. But starting in 2023, I'm trying to normalize it a little bit more. And it's going to be a jump, but I'll get to that in the side on what we can expect forever. So that was the first with the EMS with Richard, I believe, and Derek went over the deal. Fire equipment reserve, we have the $20,500, and that is SCBA replacement. And honestly, that's something that you're going to see there. That should probably stay in the budget now. What we use that $20,500 for might change a little bit, especially if we get a grant. Max was very successful with the SCBA grant from the fire grant side. There is a reason we call Maximilian for a pavilion. Grant rating skills. So that's something that we are not going to bond, obviously, or finance. The police equipment reserve, if you recall, John went over that. That's $40,000 for the new vehicle, and then the $10,000 is the standard operating procedure software program and taser replacement. And the taser replacement is something that's necessary. They at some point expire, and you don't want to pay somebody with an expired taser. Bad. I don't know what happened. I don't really is the transfer station equipment reserve, and that was the $20,000 for the trailers. And again, on this sheet, I put 20,000. It just keeps going for the transfer station, just because of equipment. And so, well, actually it was 20, and then I put it down to 5. And then that will just be what we keep saving, $5,000 every year. I'm sure Will can figure out a really good way to spend that money. We do need new trailers, and John's working on that. But that'll be this year that he's planning on doing that. And then John requested, we put in here 3 miles of paving, and that came out to $219, $219,390, because we had 2 miles saved in reserve. And then next year I put in here that we have to go back online. I put 300,000, don't look at such a big jump, but we've got to get back to the habit of putting 350 in there every year. And I did warn you that we will be having a request for a road that's going to be about $1.5 million. That will go on the ballot for approval, specifically to pave the road. That'll have to be authorized by that, because we can't save exactly an expensive road. We're not going to be able to speed enough in reserves, so that's definitely going to be bonded. So that would definitely go on the ballot. And then $10,000 for the unemployment reserve. We're low on that, and we are self-pay on that, so that's where that 10,000 comes from. 92-91. And Peg was comfortable. That was a recommendation from Peg on that. Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's also on the big one. Right, because we're at 1022, we're putting 10,000 in, and then we're putting 3 in here from there. And that's pretty much the capital. Again, it's a slim year. I mean, if you look at it, we're down from 20, quite a bit. 831,000 down to 457,000 the year prior. I'm sorry, the year prior, it was $638,316 what we budgeted. And, we're only at 457,890 this year. But the good thing is, we have this document. I hope it's easier to understand. I hope you enjoy it. Any questions? Like I said, I updated. I did put some other things in there. I just to talk about this for a minute. We are going to need another voting machine. I'm learning this. If we could have one more voting machine, and I put that in so that we have it by 2024 by the presidential. That way we can run our own. We can have 3 machines going to help. In case one goes down, we do get back up with one, and if there is a town question and a presidential election, we then have to hand count, and that just takes time. So they're getting older. We've had one go down for about 2 hours with the past election, so we probably should invest in a new one. So that's in there for 2023 and 24. That's nothing you have to worry about this year, but I did add that. On the big, it's about a third, quarter of the way down. The top is just $2,500 each year. The EMA equipment reserve that you'll see from 2024 to 2028 is radios, new radios when we go to digital, as they change over, and whatever upgrades the antennas. If you keep going, I think that's one of the 2 things. Shellfish is hard. Shellfish equipment reserve is hard. That's all funded by the Shellfish Committee and the clammers. So I don't really predict what they're going to need. No, that's as of 6/30/2020. So more will go in. But I haven't had a chance to meet with them and ask them when they would like to vote. When would you like to replace your vote?
You don't need to.
Okay. So but things like that. The only, and then the only other thing that was added, and that's on the, if you flip the page over, it's the only highlighted area, and that's the recordization facility reserve, site plan development. And as you know, we put the community center on the non-binding referendum, and it passed 2 million. Strictly for argument's sake, just to be prepared and give you an idea, I budgeted it at 4 million. That doesn't mean that's what we're spending, but the recreation committee at their meeting last night reviewed an RFP to start to put out to find how they would like to proceed, have some community forum, have an architect present for that, to really figure out what it is that the public wants to move forward in that facility. So I thought we better at least have it on there so that you see it with your own eyes. That would be behind them. And that has been the recreation committee recommendation since the select board started to ask them to move ahead with that. And we have plans, we have a site plan done, we have engineering done on that site. That seems to be the direction that everybody wants to go. So, and that's also potentially where the medical arts building would be, which would be a nice shared, the ability to then share expenses in a meaningful way, making it good for both of us, that if you're building something, is there ways we can share and their scale of the cost. So.
Where does that stand, right?
Well, with COVID, it got a little bit delayed with Lincoln Health, with Maine Health, as you can imagine. But they're raring to go. We've been having meetings. Well, we scheduled one meeting that was canceled, so they're just getting. Cindy Wade is taking over for Jim Donovan, so I think when she gets established in that position over at Lincoln Health, more of those talks will continue. They did have people come out with the site. I had in the last 2 months of conversation with her facilities, Maine Health facilities. I forget what his exact the title was, but he came down, picked up some aerials and things like that. So that is something that, you know, we're still planning on doing. That Google works. So again, I put, like I said, I put that in here so that you're aware that that represents $4 million that keeps going for a while. Again, that doesn't include if you were to get grants and donations, but I figured worst, I thought we were doing worst case scenario. So that's where we're at. So that number for capital of 457,890 is a good number.
Just wanted to add about on the revenue side of the capital account, there are two new things. One is invested interest income, I'm sorry. And then the other is fire billing revenue that's new. So on the interest, we felt comfortable with 10,000 in interest from just the checking account where the capital lives at First National Bank across the street. And then for fire billing, we started billing through Central Maine Cost Recovery a couple of years ago. And the thing with the revenue account for the capital is it also includes anytime someone gives a gift or a trust or some sort of other that's not fire billing, it's all lumped into that same account. So I don't have the separated numbers to go over, but Paul and I felt comfortable at booking 8,000 in for the year for just revenue. Fire department.
But these other numbers are actually what we got.
2021 is year to date. Correct, Peg?
I didn't hear your question.
That 2021 year to date under fire, oh, that's fire equipment reserve began in FY 2020. That's not all, it's the 23,000 fire billing.
The 72,000, is that what you're talking about, the 2020 actual
Are you on page 3 of the capital reserve budget?
for revenue?
Yeah.
Yes,
We got 72,000.
in 2020, right. That includes a trust that was given to the police department and it also includes, I don't know if you remember, but Max did a lot of grants. And so we got a Stephen King grant for 22,000, I believe. So yeah, the 72 is like I said, it's the only reserve number we have with fire department. So it includes a few different things.
So with the 23, does that represent just what we got?
No,
Or is there
that,
some
no,
grants and stuff?
yes, there's grants, yeah, there's grants and yeah, it's, I don't have the
But
breakdown,
the
sorry.
8,000 is what they feel good about budgeting for fire. As far as so it's 457, I guess the revenue and the expenditures are the same amount, correct?
Yep.
Just to go back to the very front page of the booklet that we have, we are dealing with general fund. You're showing revenue sources of $2.261 million. In the revised, on the yellow sheet, you're showing $2.779 million. And the primary difference in that number is the municipal revenue.
Right, we haven't even gotten there yet.
We haven't got to that. So.
They
all
don't
we're
affect
doing-
the capital revenue.
Sorry.
The
all we're
changes
doing
she's
is
going to
capital
talk
budget.
about,
All we're doing is capital.
not capital.
So we're looking for $457,809 on the expense side. And on the revenue side.
Correct.
And I think that you want to do both. That's okay. That's fine. However you make one. Is there a second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Okay. How do we feel about $490? Capital expense. Discussion. Thank you very much. This is good.
I know, complicated, believe me.
No, but
There's times I was like, how can I make this visual for him?
no, this is great. It shows there's a plan.
There is a plan.
That's
There is a plan. We have to vote on transfer station on next.
Okay.
Oh, you haven't even called it yet, I'm sorry. Correct.
How do people think about this? All those in favor? Eight.
Transfer station is the next fund.
I think they did that one.
It doesn't say that in your,
I know, I made a mistake,
did you make a mistake?
imagine.
Okay, all right. You're gonna lose one of your flowers here.
I know, I think the wrong.
You're gonna have to write it in.
Take the flowers.
Oh, yeah, they're probably for you.
The wrong technique.
We didn't do transportation revenue.
You-
No. So the transfer station revenue is on page 5.
Actually, you did both
Yeah.
separately.
New number of 69799.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
5070.
You didn't have a pencil that
Well, I wrote it down for the expense side, but not revenue side. I apologize.
Okay, so highway block grant was next then. And like we said, this is a pass through, it goes in and out, and that's 69,724. This is something that, a number that's given to us, it's not a number we come up with. I'm sure it did, but you would have to speak to the state legislature and the governor's office about that. We're doing a lot of that. So that's a no-brainer. I mean, we do this every year. I don't know. I normally do a spreadsheet. If anybody ever wants that as our report part of how well we've done, it's a percentage of how likely we are. And I think that's always gives a high, you know, it's always a guess that it's going to be police, fire, or EMS, which is the most, and it's never the town manager one.
Somebody left it in.
Sure, I moved 69,724. That was for the highway.
Second. Second. All those in favor?
Yeah, you have about 69,724 dollars.
So moved. Second.
You, any discussion? All those in favor?
All right. If you want to flip back to page 47, we can start on the revenue. Woo-hoo! 47.
We could do other in the expense side too.
Oh, do you want to do other first? Sorry. Other financing,
Yeah,
and that's on page 46.
If you're good with capital and highway and transfer, then we can do other.
Do you have any changes to those numbers? Or?
I don't think I printed that. Sorry, and that's it. I gave them out though.
Right. Changes so that transfer out for the transfer station is 320,618. And then the capital is the 420.
741.90.
Correct. And that would be the number you would put on 741,586.
I move that we approve $741,586 for other. Is there a second?
$741,586. Motion. Discussion. This brings us up to
That's good for- And honestly, for a town of our size, that's still very low. For a town of our population size and our area that we cover, considering that we are a full service community.
We're still on the LD.
It's still under our.
We weren't initially.
So,
We didn't have the revenue guidance and the new information on the American Rescue Plan.
but we are, and that's the one thing, like, you know, some people will say, well, in Bremen, and I'm like, well, in Bremen, you don't have police, you don't have EMS, you know, so there's things that we are through 24/7 community. And to my knowledge, I think we would say it is similar, but I believe we are the only 24/7, others would say that we are a full 24/7 in all services. So Revenue, page 40.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. Val is talking with me. Bring me flowers.
Yours is.
That's right. I think you can recreate. Sorry about that. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor?
Thank you.
801.
All right. Revenue, this is the fun part. I wasn't sure if it was gonna be fun or not, so. Page 47. Office and Select Board, this is the reimbursement of the county tax from Friendship and Cushing relating to the transfer station, operation of the transfer station. So those are the numbers that, we did the math and we're good with those numbers. Also, this is the CATV franchise fees that were talked about the other night. I just want to clarify something that we renegotiated our franchise tax. We are aware that there's a way to go back and ask, but it took us how many years to get Chapel Road done? 3 to 4 years, and that was one of the most important negotiating points that we wanted to make sure that our residents that we felt from the very beginning were entitled to have that run. We made that a priority, knowing that we could go back to the well. So I didn't want anybody to walk away from the other night with Larry thinking we left something on the table. We had a plan and we stuck to the plan. And we're almost to the point where we can say capital punishment. So that's what we are with that. But that is the revenue that we get from those franchise fees. And then the miscellaneous is the water department reimbursement for our risk pool.
It's also the place you put the rescue plan.
And I also put rescue plan money in there, just because it's miscellaneous and we don't know where we're supposed to be putting it in the revenue side of the budget. So the rescue plan money might be there.
So that's different now. So the miscellaneous, that's $2,048. The rescue plan revenue, half of the rescue plan revenue. So that's, the total was, how much is the total, Julie?
502.
Okay, so we put an additional 252,000
I'm sorry, 504,000.
in. So if you add 2,048 plus 252,000, you get $254,048. The new miscellaneous revenue. And
And
it's,
that's on your yellow, correct?
no, I did not give yellow, because we don't vote by departments, so I didn't do yellow sheets for by category like that.
But did you do it on your pay?
It's on your, yeah, it's on the summary. It's on the yellow. It's on the yellow summary.
Under what, where would we see that?
Hold on, I'm looking for a second. I had it marked, but I guess it didn't come through. Other, yeah, it's under other revenue.
There it is, other revenues. So that's where you'll see the American Rescue Plan. Page 48. No, we do revenues all at once. Office of the Town Manager. This is the Water Department reimbursement 5% of my town manager salary. And then we get to page 50, which is a lot of fun. This is where all the action is happening. Peg, you want to share where we're at with real estate taxes at this point in time?
Sure. At the end of February, we had collected 53% of our commitment, which is right on target for the time of year that we're in. And then at the last fiscal year, total collected was 92% of the tax commitment. So that's pretty much. But that's not something we budget. It was just something that Julie.
But I
wanted to
just
hear.
thought it's something you'd like to know. So people are paying their taxes. Right on track. Right on track. If you go to 3121, automobile excise tax, as you can see from the budget in 2020 to the budget 2021, that was one of the places we cut because we weren't sure what was going to happen. Well, as of yesterday or the day before, we surpassed, we budgeted 791,350 and we are at 792,241. So we still have 3 months to go. So we are ahead of what we even budgeted for. So who knew everybody was gonna go out and buy a new car? So that's good news for us. So that's why we feel confident in suggesting the $842,000 number. Because that does seem to be coming back. People are still going to have that second year of that new car to spend. We kept, we went down a little bit on the watercraft excise tax. Some of that 2020 actual and the 2021 could have been because a lot of people, if you recall, you didn't have to register anything for a period of time in 2020. So we think that'll bounce back. Being conservative on interest on taxes and tax liens, but we're already over what we expected last year, so 36,000 is a good number. Those numbers look good. Now I have to explain to you development permits, which are 3213. Yeah, we got $73,208.16, and we're only saying we're going to get 17,450. And the reason being is we had the solar farm construction, and that was a huge amount of permit fees that came into the town. We can't count on it. So that was found money. That was just a large amount of fees for a construction project. So that was just for the, a good portion of that was just for the solar project that went on the farm. We have not collected development fees yet for the solar farm on Controversy. So that will show up either in this year's number or in next year, I think when they start. So we don't want to estimate that.
Okay.
I can't even estimate that. I would assume it's a little bigger. It might be a better number, but, and I have to give credit where credit is due. That is due to Stan and Max reviewing the fees that had not been raised in quite a while to make them comparable to other towns, but still be lower than other towns, because that was one of the concerns with the select board was still being affordable, but it was that. So we're still lower than other towns, but we're raised. So that was important. That was something that was a necessity. So a big shout out to Max and Sam for taking that on themselves. Everything else is pretty much the same until you get down to 3321, and this is municipal revenue sharing. So we're at right now, we anticipated $250,000. When this was printed, we already had 356,152, and as of yesterday, we have received $466,000 of revenue, which we absolutely positively never expected, given what we were being told at this time last year. So we feel safe. The amount that we are being told that we are getting this year is I shouldn't say that. The amount we were told we were getting last year was, the revised amount was $531,120. We are being told in advance of the actual projections coming out that there's only going to be a 4% nexus in what they collected last year versus this year. So I think we're safe to anticipate the $450,000 because it's only going to be a 4% drop off of the 531, what they're anticipating. Right, we put it up to the 450, correct, Peg?
Yep.
This is state.
This is state revenue, this municipal revenue. Yeah, we are. Yeah, we went over that. That's in the miscellaneous.
Oh, sorry. 254.
Well, it's
That's right.
257.
Yep.
And I would love to get away from it. It's just not beach.
What do you mean by get away from it?
I mean, it would be great if we could eventually get to the point where we're not dependent on it. But I just, post-pandemic, it's probably not here to do that. My other issue that I have is because we were so conservative and we cut the revenue obviously projected, and we cut the expenses. We actually cut what you're going to see because we actually did really well with our revenue, believe it or not. The only thing that was actually down, correct me if I'm wrong, was the BMV registration. And that was because they didn't have to register. And that should have been a year where we were, as you'll notice, we really went up. Because it went from $3 to $5 registration. So we were expecting a really good year, but what happened was we hit the mark a little bit.
Plus adding rapid renewal, they keep our agent fees.
They do keep our year.
Yeah, we still receive excise, but they take that part.
But
That's been from my understanding, that's been an ongoing discussion during budget, like before Julie and I came, whether they have some rapid renewal or not because of the agent.
it has, but with COVID, we had no choice, and people who like it, they do use it.
I get reports all the time, every time they, it's actually pretty neat. And it works the same way as when somebody makes a payment here at the counter for something else. But so it automatically hits the bank through an ACH and they send me this really nice report and everything is just nice. It's a nice program.
So that you don't have to do anything in-house.
I still have to post journals. I have to look at journals and post journals and download information and upload it into our motor vehicle software in case next year you don't want to do it. So there's still a lot of things that we've adapted to
If
as
you
far as
register
change.
once,
But once you do it,
you can
do it.
renew online.
There's been a couple little quirks here and there, but I get an email if somebody has some trouble, and then we'll contact the person just to figure out what's going on.
So that's where we are. Everything else on that page is pretty much self-explanatory. Our investment income was up and most likely will continue to grow because our fund balance is growing. On page 52, like I said, the BMV registration fees should go up, but we're not that far off, but we're a little off. So I'd rather be a little bit more conservative with that. I know Richard went over and Derek went over the revenue on page 53 for EMS. again,
We have to, that's.
for the revenue sharing, oh, yes, you can, sorry. It's actually 450 is what, so the.
The new number
33
would, I could tell you the new number if you want to write it down. It's 1,641,705.
That was 1,000,000.
Oh, wait a second, I'm sorry. Yeah, I made a mistake, I'm sorry. It's 1,441,705.
I know Richard went over this on page 53. We do, and as Derek explained to you tonight, he is anticipating an increase in revenue from having more people here at night to cover and take transfers. We do not anticipate any of that.
And that would be roughly $7,000 if it's balanced out. You don't know.
I don't.
With the revenues against his expenses, his net is $327,000 if you just wanted a number. If that, you voted on 938,000 as his expenses and his revenues are budgeted at 610, so that the difference is 327 right now. Be nice to see that close in a little bit.
Police revenue, if you'll notice, there's one that's on page 55 for $51,500. That is revenue that we receive from the school for the resource officer. They reimburse us for that. Page 56 is selfish management licenses. That revenue is the cost of the licenses for the clammers. And again, that is not a taxpayer funded department, or in those revenues all goes to the selfish line item and is solely supported by the clammers. On page 59, we have general assistance reimbursement for $7,000, and that's what we get back from the state for some of our general assistance. And our Friendship Street School revenue, that's what we get from MCAA Head Start to lease space. And as I explained when we went over the expenses, they have been leasing all 3 floors. Third floor, somebody did adjust. On page 62, plumbing fees kept the same, and planning and code revenue, that is share from another, from actually down in Scott, the 43,150 is what the cost is to share our code enforcement. That is what they reimburse us. And on page 64, you'll see transfer in the general fund from the highway block grants. And then you see fund balance. And that fund balance number now is
204,000.
$204,500, increase of $16,500 for last year. So the theory behind this was let's anticipate the revenue sharing, because every indication says that that will come through. It through for us last year. It does appear that there's a 4% difference between what their number they're using this year and last year. It's a 4% decrease, which transposes again to a 4% decrease to us. So we're well within what we're going to get. We're budgeting less than what we've already received from this time this year. So I think I'm confident in that number, and using an extra 16.5 fund balance is good. Again, because we were so conservative, ultra conservative, which is a good thing, good. We are able to safely predict that our fund balance will grow significantly this coming year because of the cuts we made and in the expenditures. And we did a good job.
So we hit our 3-month target.
We are, except it is. Well, bear in mind, next year, we'll be a heck of a lot closer. We're 3 days closer this year.
Right.
Yeah. We're at our 30-day amount over.
Fund balance is calculated over last year,
Right.
so any changes we make this year wouldn't affect it.
But we'll be under.
We'll be well over.
We're over 30 days. Yeah, we are at 49 right now. We might get between 45 and 60. I think I could be on.
So 45,
Yeah. We did good. And I mean, if somebody had told me even 2 months ago that it would look this rosy, I would have told you we're all great. Well, it hasn't been without a lot of thanks, but we're there. We will. I just want to say one thing is that what allowed us to make those changes we made tonight is all because of the American Rescue. Otherwise, EMS would still be making $7 or a little bit more, and police wouldn't have that position. So I just want everybody to understand that that's the only reason we're allowed before we'd still be having difficulty.
And that's a 2-year grant?
That's a 2-year, it'll fund this year and next year. Now, what might happen is if we get the money in the next 60 days, we're gonna have the full payment in 1 year, but it'll go right to fund balance and then we'll have that to utilize. Again, there are other things like, there's some revenue losses you can recoup. The only revenue loss you can recoup really is about $32,000. If you really look at it like that. I went, again, like I said, I went with what I knew was already in the bill. I don't want to guesstimate, and that might be something we look at next year. We'll know more next year. But right, and I don't foresee, and we talk a lot about this, and I had Derek give you this theory on this, but as we get into normalcy again, that'll be a really good thing for our economy. But how that changes emergency services is probably here to stay. Some of the things that we had to adapt to are going to stay. It's just like us. Once we open the gate to renew online, people aren't going to want to go back to that. We're finding it that people like the ease of doing things online. Not everybody does, but a or. So, and it's just a change, so, like, you know, the protocols that were established, that some of them have been good for some of the departments, you know, we're more conscientious about, you know, maybe this on certain calls, you know, like where you might not have in the past, you might want to wear your mask now or something, and that's- Well, it has, and not in a bad way for medical reasons, but even I was reading something the other day about flu being less of an issue now. And that might be something that helps even in here. I think we're more vigilant now that everybody coughs or sneezes is what's happening. You know, I can tell you what, I got tested 3 times just because I thought I felt I had a fever and I didn't want to, so I didn't want to infect anybody. So of course, you know, you get tested and that protocol that we established, you know, when you look at it, it's probably good for when we're having the season. So we'll see. It's okay. We're getting there. So that's my good news.
You have a new bottom line?
You have a new bottom line on revenue of $2,779,536. Am I right, Patty?
You are right.
Motion for that? Would you like to make a motion? Sure. $2,779,536, and revenues for fiscal year 2022. Is there a second? Second. More discussion? Sure can. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Okay. The number here is 2,779,536.
So moved.
More discussion, questions? All those in favor? 801.
And I'd just like to give you some idea of what the tax could look like on a $250,000 house. What we've done here tonight would increase taxes by $12.56. And that's including, and that's if the school stays level and the county has gone up a scope and we're a little up, $12.56 impact. Just to give you a better idea of your property to go and how it's distributed. The monthly cost for the town share for a house assessed $250,000 is $84.76 a month to have what you have as municipal services now. And that compared to your monthly basic cell phone cost for 2 people, and this is a low ball of $100, we cost less than what your cell phone bill costs. And the biggest cost center, of course, is public safety, and that would be EMS, fire, police, hydrant rental, that's in there. But there's this cute little thing I made up. It's like one. But I just thought that was a really interesting thing to give you some perspective, is the actual monthly cost to somebody with a $250,000 home for what the town provides, just the town, is $84.70. I just think that that's a good thing. Pretty good deal. I mean, you know, the annual cost is $1,017.06. You know, when you look at that annually, that's just the municipal share. The school share is, well, their monthly cost is $231.16, and the county share is $26.13. But that to me says a lot, and I think that's a great number. I'm gonna put that up on the website, because I think people should realize what our cost is. That is where we are at. We are through. I hope everybody enjoyed the experience.
Oh,
I will tell you that if anything changes, we'll call you back. I'm not anticipating that. We do have one open seat. Somebody else does. I know Marvin, I need some papers, I gave no papers. Craig has said he doesn't want to do this upfront again. But everybody should come and do this at least once. It's fine. So you have really one open seat unless Will or Arvin is not going to come back and grace us with their presence.
Hold out, get Bob Butler to kneel down in front of you. That's right. I'll do it.
So I would just say that I'd love to have you guys participate, especially when the recreation committee gets down discussing the community center. I think it would be great. You'll get probably a special invite from them to come and sit on that because those things are important, especially when you're talking about that money, how we move forward with that. So I would encourage all of you to please participate in that. Keep you updated on that. And if you have any questions, please answer. Please ask. We like them. You know,
I also like suggestions. If you guys ever have any to improve the books or information, I like doing that. So please feel free to just reach out.
we do enjoy talking to you, even Billy, when he emails us every morning. Not to make your day longer, but could you? It's okay. And we always do, but we enjoy this. I would say my only thing, my only suggestion for next year is that we keep, when we invite guests, like we had the other night, we gotta keep them on a time. And my other suggestion would be, I don't want to meet anymore on the night we have a select board meeting, but because it just takes late, and it makes me worried that you're gonna lose interest in the evening, and I get very harried about it. So I think what we'll just do is be Thursdays next year. It might take us a few more weeks, but we'll be able to start again in, and we also have Tuesday in between, but I just think you guys coming to a select board meeting is just take too long. And then I, yell at poor Bob Butler for inviting. I did. I'm like, I have my budget committee waiting. We've got to move this along. But I thank you for volunteering to do this. Their town has no greater resource than the volunteers.
You didn't make a motion.
You didn't make a motion to adjourn when you're done. And thank you all for coming. You've been wonderful. We love you all.
Else, Margaret? Okay, all those in favor? Thank you.